Whiskey Congress is in session yet again. We are at Whiskey Congress on all social media. We are whiskeycongress.com. We are available on iTunes. We are available on YouTube. We have got some videos out there. Some of them are whole shows. Some of them are partials. And some of them are just rants from Steve and I. I'm Jim from the Whiskey Congress. With me is Steve.
Yep.
So like I said, you can find him at Steve at whiskeycongress.com, me at Jim at whiskeycongress.com. See how that works? Anyway, we're carrying on from our earlier part of the conversation. Let's change gears because you texted me, have you seen the Vicente Fox videos? Now, I had not. And
I want to jump in. If you don't know who Vicente Fox is the former president of Mexico. He is the leader who said that when Donald Trump said that the Mexicans would pay for this border wall that we're building or going to build, which has yet to come to fruition. Which, by the way,
or start
right. Which, by the way, Donald Trump said it had already started, and it looks great and magnificent, and it's going to be great.
He also acknowledged that, well, they're not going to pay for it. They're going to pay us back for it.
But Vicente Fox was the person who said, we're not paying for that fucking wall. Those are his exact words. And so Vicente Fox has now gone out and started his own little YouTube social media venture, which we're just going to call, Vicente Fox Presents Hey Donald. And
fair, okay.
I don't know. We're kind of rookies in this whole thing, and so I don't know what we can play from it, what we can't. So I don't want to get us.
Let's just reference it.
Right.
YouTube,
I don't want to get us in trouble.
Vicente Fox.
But if you YouTube Vicente Fox
It'll
and
come up.
Donald Trump, it comes up. And Jim, it had me laughing out loud at my desk to the point where people asked me if I was okay and what was I looking at. And in my office, I put it on one of our big TVs, one of our big smart TVs, and there were a number of us who thought it was hilarious. It's funny and horrifically frightening at the same time.
So I didn't watch any of it until today.
Okay.
Because you sent it to me when I was on the road, and I had a client to talk to, and I thought, I'm in
Mr. Big Shot.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm not a client to talk to. I was in a client's facility. I'm like, if I start laughing uncontrollably while in their facility, that's not going to look good.
Right.
So I did not watch it till I got home, and I watched it, and it was fucking hilarious. And there's several of them. I mean, there's
I think there's like three of them, and he essentially, this is Vicente Fox saying what you and I have been saying, what people in the media have been saying, what I'm sure other world leaders are saying behind closed doors. Vicente Fox says, I'm not worried about winning another election. I'm retired. And frankly, I don't like this guy. And he comes out on these videos and just calls Donald Trump out for every misstep along the way. He calls him out for
toying with him.
He is. He's what are you going to do to me? What can you do to me? I'm not the president. You can't hurt Mexico by saying what are you going to sanction Mexico because of my bad behavior, or you're going to what are you going to do?
Right.
You're going to start a war with Mexico because I'm pissing you off because I'm making you feel bad because of these videos I'm going to do. I think it's a great tactic. You know exactly why he's doing it. If he says Vladimir Putin's going to sit here and stroke your ego, well, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to kick you in the dick.
Yeah. And I mean, all right, your synopsis is perfectly correct. It's hilarious. It is funny stuff.
What is just tell me one of your favorite parts from the video.
I don't want to steal yours because I know what that is because you told me what it was, and I don't want to steal that. I mean, just the snarkiness is great, but when he's dropping. When he tells Donald Trump to avoid starting a war and drops a video game into a box, a FedEx box, and on that box, the box is labeled to, I want to say it says Crazy Gringo.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough to beat.
Right. My favorite part is when he says, Donald Trump, we don't want you to start a war. Because he calls Donald Trump out on the fact that, Donald Trump got drafted and he avoided the draft because he had,
deferments for flat feet,
tennis elbow or flat feet or whatever the reason why he couldn't go.
Had money.
And essentially,
his real deferment was, I have money.
Vicente Fox says, don't start a war that you wouldn't have fought in yourself. And don't send your youth out there to die in a war that you're not willing to fight in, or you wouldn't be willing to fight in, or you wouldn't put your sons in.
You wouldn't have in the day, right?
Right. So he says that, and he says, instead of starting a war where people are going to die, they have these things. They have these video games, these first-person shooter video games that are so lifelike, like you feel like you're in the war. And he holds up a Call of Duty, and he takes a Call of Duty video game and throws it in the crazy gringo box and says, just play some Call of Duty, and it'll get all that aggression out, and people will live, and it works out the best for everyone. And then my other favorite part is he says, you want to be a hero, you want to be the guy that everybody loves. You know how you can do that? Quit.
Well, but he also before that he said, take care of people other than millionaires and billionaires.
Well, you're right.
Actually, so I mean, it's kind of funny. We as Americans tend to have a very arrogant look towards Mexico,
right?
And there's lots of things in Mexico that need to be improved upon. However, when we make Mexico out to be like this violent, war-torn, drug-ridden country,
third world country, right. It's not right.
Parts of it are.
There are bad parts.
Juarez, Tijuana, don't want to be there. But you know what? I don't want to be in parts of Chicago or Brownsville, Texas either, because they're suffering from the same problems. I have a few friends who spend significant time in Mexico.
I do too.
And they get furious at the media reporting of, the violence in Mexico.
It's again, like you said, it's
depends
no
on where
different
you
than,
are.
Right. It depends on where you are. You can be in Chicago. You can be in parts of L.A. You could be in Little Rock, Arkansas.
There's that. Another mass shooting in Little Rock, Arkansas, in a club. I don't know enough details of.
It wasn't terrorist related.
It
was gang and territory related.
But still, I mean, we live in Cleveland. If you
go to the east side of Cleveland,
and in specific areas, you're at a much higher risk than you are, say, in some of the suburbs we mentioned. And to label the whole country the size of Mexico as being homogeneously dangerous is inaccurate. Yet,
irresponsible.
And yet we tend to do that, and other countries do that to us too. Right. I mean, it's so easy to think of. Germany is like this. I love the movie Euro Trip, which is a hilarious, awesome, awful movie, but it basically treats every country like it fits the stereotype of how we assume them to be as Americans, and that's to make the world a better place. We need to stop doing that shit.
Right. There's dangerous parts of every country,
everywhere.
Every city. There are great parts of every country, every city. And then and
if we start normalizing that out, if we start making the bad parts better and the ultra, I don't want to say safe. Safe is always good. But if we stop segregating safe from the rest of society in a positive way, we'd all be better off. Maybe didn't articulate that well, but if we stop...
No, I have no idea what that means.
If we stop making it so that, okay, if you have enough money, you can get into the safe zone and you're fine, but if you don't, you're cast over the wall. Maybe I've watched too much Game of Thrones.
I'm not sure where you're going there, so we're going to go away from it. I'm scared I'm running away.
Okay.
So, anyway.
Those videos are fucking hilarious.
If you get a chance, check out Vicente Fox and his, Hey Donald series. It's good stuff. Some of it is just the fact that he's a political leader, a former retired political leader who's, listen, I can say and do what I want. Who's going to stop me? It's not going to have any impact on anything. So I'm going to do it.
You know what? How awesome is it to be in that situation?
Well, here's my problem.
All right.
I really don't like the fact that it's the President of the United States who is the subject of these videos. That's the part where,
like it, but I understand it, and I can't criticize it.
I understand it, and a lot of it is accurate. Some of it isn't, but a lot of it is very accurate.
No, you're being patriotic. You're like, I don't like my country getting ridiculed.
I'm the guy.
It's so funny,
right? I'm the guy who's hypersensitive to being made fun of, and I don't like being in a situation where I can be made fun of, and I don't have a whole hell of a lot of defense. What's my comeback? I don't have a good one. Because at every turn, Donald Trump, where I was talking about, if you listen to our previous episode, part 1 of this, today, whatever, I was talking about how Donald Trump can have this open combat war with the media and throw out fake news because media outlets continue to get loose and let in some of these stories that aren't fully vetted and having to go back and retract them. Well, Donald Trump, the other side of that sword is you continue to act like a moron on Twitter and social media and just say whatever comes to your brain with no control or no thought on overall impact. So that opens up the door for a guy like Vicente Fox to sit there and make a video and put it on YouTube for millions of people to watch, basically calling you an out-of-control crazy gringo.
And the thing about it is his snarkiness and his belittling, from a factual standpoint, he's tough to argue with. I mean, he's a smart guy.
The arguments on this show can't be denied.
Stop, you son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
So, yeah. All right. I know what you did there. If that was Will Cow getting thrown at me or whatever.
Because
fuck. All right. You know what? All right. You went there. All right. You know what? Fine. You want to talk sports? We'll talk sports. You want to get me off politics?
Whoa.
Oh, you got more?
You and your bad transitions. Okay.
Well.
So John
I
McEnroe.
felt like I was being pushed into the.
John McEnroe jumps into all this. By the way, we're done with the Vicente Fox. We're done with politics.
Let's chill. We got some good sports stuff to talk about.
Let's bring it down. Bring it down.
The whiskey's been flowing for a little bit.
John McEnroe was interviewing on NPR, discussing his promoting. I think he wrote an autobiography talking about his life and tennis and everything else. And John McEnroe is a guy who I think he won his last Grand Slam in like 1984, and
probably a bit later than that, but around there. But late
1984.
Okay,
you want to bet on it?
No, I don't.
You want to bet a bottle of whiskey on it,
no,
Mr. Smart Guy?
Well, we'll share the bottle of whiskey, so I'm not that scared. But all right, 84, fine.
Okay. I'm just saying.
What's that?
I'm just saying.
All right, go ahead.
Anyway,
carry on.
So John McEnroe, who hasn't won anything in tennis for the better
Almost
part
30
of
years.
my adult life.
Right.
Okay. Last time he won something, I was between the ages of 4 and 6, and I will tell you I was 4. Okay. It's 1984.
Okay.
But he has managed to stay somewhat relevant in sports, whether it's, sideline, I guess, commentating or whatever for ESPN or whoever covers these different tennis matches. I'm not saying whoever, but
right.
ESPN isn't the only network that covers the various Grand Slams and Opens in the tennis world. And he had a Gillette commercial, and John McEnroe has managed to stay relevant.
And he was in Mr. Deeds, which cannot be discounted. Or can it? Wow. He actually was in Mr. Deeds as himself.
Deflate a tire like no one else. So
I love Mr. Deeds.
You do.
I was really drunk when I watched it.
You and Adam Sandler,
and John McEnroe, I'm sure.
Pretty sure John McEnroe probably hates it. But so John McEnroe is on NPR. He's promoting this book, and the interviewer from NPR asks him about Serena Williams and her overall greatness in the world of tennis, and McEnroe says, "Are we good?
Yeah, we're good."
Okay. McEnroe says that she's the best female tennis player ever, and she's really great, and she's the best female tennis player ever that we've ever seen.
Right.
Paraphrasing very loosely. And the woman from NPR says, "Why do you have to qualify it with female? Right? Why can't you just say she's the best tennis player ever?" Right? And McEnroe goes, "Well, I mean, you want me to say she's the best including men and women?" And he says she would be the
700th best player on the men's
men's circuit. Hey, don't rush it. We'll get to it when I get to it.
Quit yelling at me. All right, fine. I'll
go.
Go.
listen to you talk about fucking healthcare. You can listen to me talk about women's tennis. Damn it, because
they're
both important.
Because that's your
because they're both important.
Because how many times you told me, Jim, women's tennis is something I'm so passionate about that I must be.
Listen, I remember when Martina Hingis made it on the scene. So. I don't even know I said that. I do remember it, though.
I'm amazed you know who Martina Hingis is.
Because I actually I follow women's tennis. I do.
Do you really?
I do.
Do you?
I do.
Holy shit. All right. Carry on. This is going to get fun. I'm looking forward to this.
I don't know. It's interesting to me because it's one
you
of
like Russian women. I like Russian women.
It's not even about the Russian women. It's not even about I don't watch it because of the women. I enjoy watching women's tennis more than I enjoy watching men's tennis. I just think it's a different game, and I don't know. It's kind of ogreish with men, and I think it's an interesting sport to watch with women. Anyway, besides that,
yes.
So, he makes the statement that
Serena
Williams, if she was playing with men, she would be she'd be like the 700th ranked person on the tour,
right?
If she was playing with men, and the woman from NPR, kind of turns it into a feminist sort of thing, and then like the whole feminist world and the world kind of blows up at John McEnroe, sexist, misogyny, and all this other stuff. And this is where I come out on this. One, Serena Williams has acknowledged that she can't play with men. She says she can't beat Andy Murray, and that Andy Murray would murder her,
right.
Metaphorically,
yes.
In a tennis match because just bigger, stronger, faster, right? Whether you're a feminist or a male dick, you know that men are bigger, faster, stronger than women in probably 95% of the cases. Just genetically, that's just the way we're designed and built, right? Not by science, biology, it is what it is. Most men are bigger, stronger, and faster than most women. There are exceptions, and by the way, Serena is one of the exceptions because there are a lot of men that I'm sure there are a lot of small men that she is bigger and stronger and faster than. Okay, but most of them probably don't play professional tennis, and I guarantee you, Serena's probably a lot better than 700. Would she be in the top 100 men? I don't know, and I don't know tennis well enough to make that, and it doesn't matter. Okay, it's really beside the point because what people are upset about is they're trying to take the argument of equality for women in the workplace, equality for women in politics, equality for women overall in society, and they're trying to make a connection in sports when they don't need to. They don't have to. There's no reason to go there. There's no reason because physically, right, which is something that you can't change, deny, or protest, it just doesn't match up, right? If you took the women from the U.S. World Soccer team and you pitted them against the men, it probably wouldn't be a good game or fun to watch.
18-0 score.
And I don't, again, but it probably wouldn't be close. And it's not because the men are male chauvinistic pigs. It's because they're bigger, stronger, and faster. Right? Same thing here in tennis. The men Serena serves harder than, I would say, probably 50% of all the men who play on the men's circuit. Probably 40 to 50%.
I don't know the number.
Just looking at it, I've looked at it in the past, and it's actually, she's got close to 100 mile per hour serve.
It's more like 120. Right,
I think,
She crushes the ball.
She does,
and she's 5'9" and 170 pounds. She's a freakish athlete, but she's not going to compete
she's not
on the men's circuit,
right?
Where the average guy is 6'2", 210 pounds,
right,
and as fast and much stronger,
right? And stronger and everything else. And listen, that's okay for women to get equality in the workplace, for women to get equality in politics, for women to get equality in society. You don't need to physically match up to men, right, for that to happen. Okay, you don't need to change biology, or I guess some would argue that you do, but you don't have to change the actual, you don't have to say, well, you
don't change the standard.
You don't change the physical biological standard or challenge that. You don't have to challenge it at every turn to get to where you want to get, right? That's not going to advance. Like saying, if we go to a false narrative that in order for women to seek equality, we have to acknowledge that Serena Williams is the greatest tennis player of all time and could beat men and women across the board. And she could beat Federer or Nadal or, Roddick or any. Well, she could probably beat.
No.
Andy Roddick. Andy Roddick is such a disappointment to me in males tennis.
Okay, well, fine.
And the U.S. hasn't had a good male tennis player since
which is probably why tennis is different. So here's where our age difference gets interesting, because when I was in my teens, I was
you had Jimmy Connors.
You
had John McEnroe.
I was a huge Michael Chang fan because Michael Chang was the first guy to win a major sports event who was younger than me. He was like 3 months younger than me. I'm like, holy shit, this 17-year-old whatever won a Wimbledon. I don't remember which Grand Slam he won.
You've been holding on to this age thing for a long time.
It was cool when I was 17. It sucks balls now because now everyone's younger than me. But anyway, I was into tennis back in those days. Mostly men's, because men's tennis had a lot of Americans in it, and it was a bigger deal. But this is Steffi Graf. This is Monica Seles. Right. Chris Everett in that genre was whatever. A lot of things you said are indisputable, though. And here's my thoughts about. Well, I've got a bunch of thoughts about this. I've been looking forward to talking about this because the person who interviewed John McEnroe, who is known for being a free speaker, whether he should or shouldn't be, and say, why do you have to qualify it as male or female? Now, truthfully, if you ask it from a level of decoration standpoint, Serena Williams is maybe the most decorated professional tennis player. She probably is. She has won 23 Grand Slams. Mm-hmm. And truthfully, if not for the presence of her older sister, it would probably be almost 30. So Serena is amazing. Venus was amazing. Their story is amazing. Mm-hmm. But for John McEnroe to say, well, if she was playing in a gender-free open circuit, she would probably never win a title. And that's not being disrespectful. She would beat some guys.
Right, and I think whatever. So there's two parts of this conversation. I think what John McEnroe is saying is that she is the greatest female player, and you can dispute who's the greatest male player, right? If you want to go,
from decoration standpoint, Serena's it.
She is,
and there's some great. Martina Navratilova, Billie Jean King, phenomenal.
Right. Steffi Graf,
right?
Amazing. We talked about those, and so I think if you just want to talk overall accomplishment, right, which those terms were never defined in the initial conversation. So if you want to talk about accomplishment and decoration, as you stated, then yes, she is. I don't have a problem saying that.
I don't think John McEnroe does either. Which is why he said female tennis player, because they're different sports for a reason.
Right. And I think that John McEnroe is a guy who's been around. He played tennis, but he's not the most refined guy, right? He's a
jackass.
He's a New Yorker, or is he from?
If he's not a New Yorker,
I can't remember if he's from New York or if he's from Philadelphia.
He became one.
But right, he's a guy who he's not your refined intellectual deep thinker.
He was. Look, so
and we don't. He
was a jackass as a player. He would throw rackets. He would throw tantrums. I grew up a fan because I had an older cousin who was a huge fan, and I admired my cousin. And I remember my cousin had a poster of John McEnroe, like walking down the streets of New York City with a tennis racket, and so I kind of admired him by proxy. So I am a bit biased in McEnroe's favor, but also, he played in a different era of tennis, first of all, because equipment changed dramatically.
It totally matter. It doesn't, because what we're talking about is why people are mad.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, why people are mad. And why people are mad is because they feel that
he attached a gender qualification, right, to.
And then, therefore, it was a slight at Serena. Now, Serena had her response, which I thought was a little over, but I get it, because she's got to. She has to kind of stand her ground as an independent black woman. That's important for her, and it's important for, we know that I have a daughter. I want my daughter to have, strong black role models, because my daughter, well, she's of mixed race. My daughter will never be seen as white. my daughter will always be seen as a black girl, right? No matter how she tries to separate herself from that. So she needs to know and see that black women can be successful. She needs to see it in sports. She needs to see it in the corporate world. She needs to see it in politics, so that she knows that there are no limitations and no bounds to what she can accomplish. All right. So Serena, whether you believe athletes should or should not be role models, they are what they are. They are propped up on a pedestal. At the very least,
they're public figures.
They're public figures, and whether you like it or not, they are. So she's got a certain role that she has to play. So her response, I feel, could have been better, was probably the right one, right? Where she's just like, listen, keep my name out of your mouth, okay? And respect my privacy. I'm trying to have a baby.
And she even said, "I respect you
as
a guy."
Right. I think she called him. I think she called him like a sweetheart or something like that.
Yeah, she did.
And then, she said, "Respect me," and I'm trying to have a baby. Which I'm just like, but you were on the cover of Vanity Fair, naked and pregnant.
Okay.
But I mean,
see, now you're being that guy.
No, I'm not being that guy. I mean, she's saying respect my privacy, but it's just like, all right. I totally respect it, but
from a privacy standpoint, yeah, okay,
right. I mean, that's like you. That's like me telling you, don't look at my dick while I'm just smacking you in the face with it.
Okay, that was an image you did not need to put out there. We're playing rough now.
Stop looking at my dick, Jim. Stop looking at it.
Holy shit! Whiskey Congress has gone into.
Anyway,
yeah.
But so my point is,
I can't believe
from a standpoint,
or can I?
You can. You know me. I'm a degenerate.
Yes, we do.
From a standpoint of the fight for feminism and equality, I think this is a place where you're fighting a fight that you don't have to fight, because ultimately this isn't. If you want to say, one, you shouldn't be upset with McEnroe. You should be upset with listen, just frame the question better, right? If you frame the question better, then, but you know what? I shouldn't have to put it on the.
McEnroe was not trying to be offensive. Right. He was not trying to be disrespectful. And by the way, he was speaking of two separate entities. If someone called Danica Patrick the best female driver ever, well, there's two of them or three of them, but whatever. Right. But at least they're an emerged sport. I mean, let's go with basketball.
Sure.
Okay, the best female basketball player ever. I don't know who that is.
Diana Taurasi.
Okay, Brittany Griner. I
mean, she's big, she's tall, but the best pure basketball player, female basketball player, is probably Diana Taurasi.
And try to get her in the NBA.
Can't.
Right.
What would she do with Steph Curry? Nothing.
Right.
What would she do with Kyrie?
What would she do with Matthew Dellavedova? What would she do with?
Right. Let's not even. But let's just go with names that we know. You know, what would she?
And again, not to be disrespectful, but to try to spin a legitimate comment, which, by the way, the reason why women and men compete differently in tennis, in basketball, in a bunch of sports, is to be fair.
Right.
And so
if you put them on
it's not disrespectful to say, in your sport, you are the greatest ever. And, the Williams sisters, to me, are an amazing story.
But I think part of the problem here is, and this is where feminists, and this is where they don't even get it, there's a race aspect to this that is underlying. And
is it underlying?
Well, it is, because part of the reason why there are women who say, yeah, Serena can definitely compete with the men, because they look at Serena, they look at her build, right? And she
is a muscular,
is athletic as fuck, right? I mean, like, she's a girl, she's just like, I don't touch weights. She's like, if I touch weights, I get bulky. Serena only does body weights and like yoga and Pilates and all that other stuff because
full disclosure, being totally fair, I remember seeing a picture of her in the early 2000s, where she is like in full extension, just crushing a ball, and
muscles
ripping everywhere, and thick thighs. I mean, she's a powerfully built woman. She's 5'9", 175, and jacked.
Right. I mean, like those stats right there. I mean, there are cornerbacks in the NFL who have
roughly the same dimensions.
Who have those same dimensions. So, and I think part of it is there are people who have been critical of Serena because of the way she's built. Right, because you don't find a lot of white women who are built like her who are as athletic as her. But let's just be clear here.
Right.
Listen, you don't find women.
I'm saying women of any
black,
race,
white, or other who are built like Serena.
Freak athlete.
She is an anomaly.
A top 1% athlete.
She is just an anomaly. It doesn't matter about race, but I think the issue is that because Serena is black and proud, and she has no issue with saying, "Hey, I'm a black woman." Right?
Right.
And then you look at her, and then there's no one else like her. There just is not another woman.
Yes, there is.
What? Who?
Venus.
Venus is not built like Serena
No,
at all.
not quite.
Venus is 2 inches taller and rail thin, but just
real thin. I mean,
yeah,
thinner. Here's the thing. Venus preceded Serena.
You are so white guy.
Or maybe I am.
I mean,
but I guess
I like my women nice and skinny and blonde.
Look,
with big boobs.
All right. I listened to an interview with Ice-T today talking about his wife Coco being a white girl with big booty and big boobs. So I don't know why that had to interject in the conversation, but it froze you for a second.
That's not even close to
relevant. No, but anyway,
deflecting the exact thing we were talking about earlier. You just did.
Venus was a bit older. Venus changed the look of tennis. And then Serena comes on and is like, damn, she's better than her sister.
Right.
And almost all the time when someone comes in and just dominates a sport and then the sibling comes along, they say, oh, this one's better. And they almost never are.
Never. Right.
And in Serena's case, she actually was.
Right.
And I used to hate when they had to play each other in finals.
Ugh. It's still
because, it's tennis. It's not like boxing. It's not like they're fighting each other.
It doesn't
matter.
But
still,
it's sports.
It's sports, but if you beat someone in tennis, you competed in a sport. And like, I would love to crush everyone I love in golf because I'm not hurting them.
You're also a dick.
I suck at golf, and I'm a dick. Okay, fine. But what I'm saying is that when you're competing in a sport that isn't a combat type sport or a collision type sport,
I think with Serena and Venus, you're talking about two black sisters that came up with braided hair and beads, and they were the only really two black pairs of worth mentioning other than Arthur Ashe in the last 50 years of the sport, right?
With yes.
Worth mentioning, truly.
But even beyond Arthur Ashe,
right.
They were Venus was the first black face in
a
tennis,
white sport,
in an
utterly
white sport.
Right. I mean, they wear white. They wear all white, and they're all white.
Right? And even beyond that, it was white across the world. It wasn't just America. It was Eastern Europe. It was a
Germany. You had Spain, which but it's still Europe.
But
France and
she was one of the first real faces in women's tennis that was not white,
right? And she wasn't a soft. She wasn't like a light skin. She's very. They're both dark skinned girls. They had braided hair with the beads and everything, and they were from South Central LA. Their dad was outspoken or Compton.
Houston. I thought it was Houston for some reason.
What?
I thought they were from Houston.
Come on, bro, stop.
All right, you're right. I'm wrong.
So they,
I just reverse Wilcowed you.
Slow roll. They were black, and you couldn't deny it. You couldn't make it softer. They were right. Their skin was dark, and then they grew into. They grew into fashion, and they became kind of moguls, and
their dad interjected into their careers.
Well, he did early, but then he faded, right? He let them because then their star power
outshined everything. Yes,
right. There was nothing he could say or do. Right. Similar thing to LeVar Ball.
Yeah. We'll see.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, if his kid is as good as they think he's going to be, then LeVar Ball won't have to say anything, right? And Venus and Serena's dad, it got to a point where he didn't need to hype them. There was no need to interview them because they were the star power. Their talent, their ability, and their personalities took over, and all he had to do was sit back and say that, that's them. That's what I was talking about. There's one thing you did. Same thing with Tiger. Right, Tiger's dad was the one, Earl. It was interviews with Earl, and then eventually Tiger just took over, and you're like, holy shit, like Earl, who, what? This Tiger guy, right?
There's one thing you didn't say that I expected you to, and that is that when the Williams sisters would have emotional outbursts in tennis, which is case in point in tennis, John McEnroe used to throw tantrums. Literal spike his racket, break his racket.
It's a great point.
Whatever. And when the Williams sisters would do it, it was definitely the race was pointed out.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. And there was, even locally here, there was a guy, Aaron Goldhammer, who's a good guy. I like him. He's really good on ESPN 850. But he kind of got caught up in Serena and Venus, they're bees. They've got a case of the bees, which is case of the bitchiness or the bitches or whatever. Because of their attention, and it's just like. Yeah, but I mean you didn't criticize McEnroe.
They yelled at whatever,
right? But you didn't criticize. I mean, I've seen Nadal, I've seen Federer yell at referees, and I've seen Djokovic,
but the ultimate was McEnroe.
He was.
Even
Jimmy Connors got mad at the refs and screamed at them.
McEnroe would go nuts. And it's so funny that he's the guy that is part of this controversy.
Andre Agassi was on meth. Okay.
He was mellow. Actually, he was not mellow. He was not mellow. But he was more about fashion and whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, but my point.
Hold on. The only reason he's on meth is because he admitted it. So there.
Okay. My point from the race standpoint though was just more physical.
Yeah.
Right. The physical of looking at Serena, seeing the muscularity. That's where I think that the feminism get behind and say, she can beat the men. Look at how she's built. Right, and it's just like, well, you're saying that because you're kind of, that's more of you being an asshole there than you being a feminist, or
being unrealistic.
Right, you're being, because if feminists wouldn't get behind and say, who's the one that they love, the white Russian girl that got suspended for drug use? Oh my God, long hair.
Tennis?
Yeah. I know you like her. Maria Sharapova.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I was the one asking for help. Maria Sharapova, right? No one is going to say Maria Sharapova can beat a man, right?
Right.
No one is going to say.
She was great. Or let's dial it back 10 years ago to Monica Seles, who was dominant in her times. Right. You put her against.
Now, here's a caveat to this argument, though, is that, Chris Everett did.
No, you're thinking about Billie Jean King.
Yes, Billie Jean King.
But she beat. Okay.
Now, Billie Jean King did beat a man. Okay,
she beat a dope,
and she beat him into the
badly
ground.
And humiliated him. But that would be like me. All right, so
she played you.
Do you know the story?
I do.
You do. People who don't know the story. A guy named Bobby Rigg, who was a hustler.
Bobby Riggs
was a hustler. He was a scumbag, and he talked a bunch of shit. And Billie Jean King had a bet with him where if he beat her in tennis, she would do something. If she beat him, he would have to dress up like a woman.
Right.
And she humiliated him.
Oh my God.
But he was not a legit.
He would. Right.
And so I mean, look. Serena Williams would humiliate the two. If we played doubles
against
we
her
would
singles,
lose 6-0, 6-0, 6-0. Bye-bye.
One of us would end up with a tennis ball implanted in our bodies.
Yes.
Right. Like I couldn't.
We're not denying that she is phenomenal.
Right. I watch tennis, but I couldn't play. My vision is so bad, I'd never see the ball coming. I just wouldn't see it.
I'm glad you brought up Bobby Rigg and Billie Jean King because that was a great story in Battle of the Sexes.
I was too young to actually remember it. I know it through history.
Remember it happened. I remember it being broadcast that it had happened.
I think it was on like ABC, like the World of Sports.
Yeah,
or
Wide
like
World
that.
of Sports,
Yeah.
And this guy was. I mean, Bobby Rigg. Like he did a thing where he bet he could hit a golf ball a mile, and then you know the story. And so what he did was he hit a golf ball on the ice in Lake Michigan.
Right.
And like, okay, yeah, you did. It rolled on ice for a really long fucking time. You hustler. All right, look, a couple more things on sports I want to get on. Was that Hustler Part 1?
No.
Okay, I thought we were going to
No.
DC Scorpio. I was going to
stop.
All right, so a little bit NBA talk because it's been a tumultuous week in the NBA.
Wow.
Chris Paul.
Okay, first of all, you have the draft, and during the draft, Jimmy Butler ends up going over to the Minnesota Timberwolves, which is like, interesting move by Chicago. They get Levine. Chicago
I thought
gets
for
Levine.
sure he was locked up.
No.
I heard that.
No, let's.
Right. Maybe I was misinformed.
Listen,
I was misinformed.
You and your contract knowledge of what's going on in the NBA. Let's not go down that road.
No need to be.
I'm not being glib. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to save you from yourself. This is me. This is me.
All
doing
right. All right. Go on.
But God, you get so defensive. But no. So Jimmy Butler going to the Timberwolves, huge move, right? And after that, you think, well, we'll figure out what happens with Paul George and Chris Paul and Blake Griffin both opt out of the Clippers, but you assume that they'll both get re-signed. And then so Jimmy Butler happens, and then Chris Paul ends up with Houston, right? So now you got Chris Paul and James Harden playing next to each other, side by side. James Harden, who is, I equate him to like Warren Moon, just run and gun offense, firing, and like really good on his own, but a lot of it has to do with the offense and the style. And it's hard to keep pace with him, but at the end of the day, it's going to be hard to win a championship that way, right? Mike D'Antoni's style has produced a lot of teams that score a lot of points and can make it in the playoffs to a certain extent, but they can't get over the hump into a championship. But you insert Chris Paul into that equation, and things change up a little bit. I don't think, and I'm pretty confident that they don't have enough to deal with what's going on in Golden State because they can't defend Golden State. They really can't. Right,
and who can? But okay,
right. I mean, not many people can, but they just they don't. They
right.
have no one.
They're not built. When you build a team to take on another team, they don't seem like they're built to beat.
Right. I mean, you're going up the matchups, and you're just like you have no one to stop Kevin Durant. You really don't have a good matchup for Sean Livingston coming off the bench. You don't have a good matchup for Andre Iguodala coming off the bench. You also right. You also have Steph Curry who's out there, and James Harden who's a better defender than he's been in the past. Definitely can't stop Steph Curry from scoring. And so now with Chris Paul, can Houston outscore Golden State? No. Right? Just no. Right? I mean, you're going to have Chris Paul get more comfortable with shooting from the 3-point line, which he may get more comfortable doing it, but is he going to be able to shoot at a percentage that's going to keep them in the game against Golden State? I don't think so.
I don't see it.
Right? I mean, because Golden State, I mean, you just have too many pure shooters who – I mean, the Cavs in the finals were fouling the Golden State guys outside of the 3-point line, like just hard aggressive foul, like slapping them across the whole, like just karate chop, and they were still making them from 3. And so if you're going to have to match them pure shooter for pure shooter if you want to beat them, or solid lockdown defender for every pure shooter that they have. And I don't think Houston did that, so I don't think Houston has gotten better, but hasn't gotten good enough
right,
to win.
Now, what amazed me was that Blake Griffin, who I thought was gone, signs a huge deal with the Clippers.
Pretty big, yeah.
Only to get eclipsed by Steph Curry.
Which is the way it should happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of talent and skill, I was amazed.
Not only talent and skill, I mean, just overall accomplishment. I mean,
2 MVPs, 2 titles. I get you. I'm not disrespecting that.
I mean, Blake Griffin signed a huge deal, but
it was the biggest deal in NBA history until 2 days later, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Which I mean, but
that's the amazing part.
You can't get caught up in that, right? NBA money is stupid money. Right, the money out there, it
keeps expanding.
It's like where baseball money was for a while. Baseball money was just ridiculous, right? To the point,
it still is,
and it still is. But now NBA money has just. If you're a professional athlete, right? If let's say you were a 5-star athlete in multiple sports in high school, I'm almost telling you, like, listen, if you're over 6'5", you go to the NBA. Just go. I mean, because the
numbers are there though.
You've got guys, and if you can get to the NBA and you can spend 3, 4, 5 years in the NBA, you're going to make more money as a bench warmer than you are as a, steady role player. Like, you're going to make more than anybody, like a lot of guys in the NFL. And then you're going to make more than, mediocre guys in baseball. I mean, it's just the NBA money is ridiculous right now. Given their TV contracts, given the popularity of the sport, which people want to talk. I mean, football is the most popular, and there was a little bit of a dip this year, which I think a lot of that had to do with the presidential campaign. Although conservatives and Breitbart and Fox will tell you it was all Colin Kaepernick, right? This is white America revolting against Colin Kaepernick in the NFL because there's too many Negroes with all this money and all this attitude. Okay, whatever, right? I mean, because if that were true, then the numbers in the NBA would be down, right? Because the NBA is dominated by black people, right? I mean, it's all black guys.
Whoa! What do you mean? Are you suggesting the NBA? Never mind.
So, I mean, come on now. I mean, it's like the NBA. The numbers in the NBA aren't down. Right? I mean, there's just
no. You know what? The NBA has done a great job of marketing itself, and the
they
players
got an easier
in the NBA
job.
have been.
Well, they also have an easier job than the NFL, right? NFL, it's this big, burly, brutish men moving at high rates of speed who wear helmets, right? It's hard to market guys who wear helmets. Some of these guys, you take their helmets off, you have no idea who they are. There are a lot of people who, Joe Thomas.
90% of the NFL could walk up to me in a bar, and I would have no fucking idea who they are. If Steph Curry or if Klay Thompson, who's
pretty famous. I mean, he's pretty.
Okay, fine. Give me
Amon Shumpert.
I would recognize him. Well, he's pretty fashion style wise. I'd recognize.
Yeah, but still, I mean, yeah.
Yes, I mean the fifth or sixth best player out of 12.
Listen,
I would recognize
most six men off the bench, right? You got 5 starters in the NBA. The 6 man off the bench. Most of them in the NBA, if they walked into a bar in Cleveland, we would probably recognize them.
You would have a good chance, yeah.
Right.
30% of the crowd would recognize them, and 20 minutes later,
the rest of the crowd would be going,
it's
easier to market them. The NBA has leveraged that and done a good job with it. Therefore, TV wants in on being able to show those games and advertise during those games, during the playoffs, during the championships. And so the money for the NBA guys is through the roof. Right, so don't get so much caught. I mean, people are getting caught up with the money.
I will say, though, it has blown up in this particular case. I mean,
it has. I mean, and it's just because you got a guy like Blake Griffin.
Yeah. Yep.
You got that guy. You got Blake with the Clippers, and you pay him because he's a solid player. He's had some injury problems, but Steph Curry can't make less money than Blake. Sorry,
no,
he can't.
You're right. And you know what? LeBron, when he renegotiates next year, is going to make more than Steph.
Listen, Dan Gilbert is loaded. I mean, he's a billionaire. And all that being said, I just would not want to have to be the guy who sits down and says, all right, LeBron, we are going to pay you whatever this number is, all right, I'm going to sign this check for $38 million a year.
Oh, no.
Sure. You know, I mean, and not because I wouldn't, like, LeBron's worth it, absolutely. Right? And there's some conservative people.
If anyone is
listen, you can make the argument, nobody's worth that amount of money and we need to pay our teachers more.
Okay, sure.
Fuck off.
Sure.
No, fuck off. Not sure, fuck off. Okay.
Pay
free market.
Exactly.
Right. It's a free market.
If you're free market, then fuck off.
When 80,000 people show up in an arena to watch a teacher teach a goddamn 5th grade class, then you can pay the teachers whatever the fuck you want. But right now, I got people who are graduating from high school who can't fucking read. So don't give me this argument about teachers. All right. Fuck it. Shut up. Stop. All right. People are showing up in arenas to watch these guys play.
I said the exact same thing when I was in college.
Well, you know where that's from.
What's that?
You know where that's from. That's James Caan in the program all day.
When I said this was before that movie came out, I was so Emmitt Smith. Hold on, fuck you. Emmitt Smith had just signed I want to say a 5-year deal worth $2.5 million a year. And one of my classmates, a chemical engineering student at WVU, said, "Why does he get all this money?" And I said, "Because you can't get 80,000 people in an arena to watch us do calculus. Get over it."
You got that from James Caan in the program. I'm just telling you right now. You can tell me that you didn't. I'm telling you
that would have been said in 1991.
Okay.
When did that movie come out? I don't know.
Program was probably 89 or 90.
All right. We yes, sir.
It's okay.
All right.
It's okay. It's fine.
I did not willingly steal as a comic.
I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you.
I plagiarized.
I'm not saying you Mencia'd it. I'm just saying.
Oh, well done, sir. I did not. I'm all right. I'll look it up. You know what? We need to get a drink off the show and chill for a bit. So
do we need to get that drink?
We
Probably
should,
not.
But we will.
There's one thing here. Here's
right,
last thing, and this is going longer than I wanted to, but we're only 3 minutes over. So, Keyshawn Johnson pulled his son out of the University of Nebraska. Do you know why?
I do not.
Because he was smoking weed. Keyshawn's son, I believe, had an injury.
All right.
And was basically being redshirted, so there's a lot of things he couldn't do. And got himself in with the wrong crowd at the University of Nebraska, started smoking weed. So Keyshawn pulled him from the University of Nebraska. Now,
all right.
What are your thoughts? Like, so
you want my initial? Yeah. I know nothing about this until you brought it up.
Right.
I'm not accusing you of ambushing me. You told me you were bringing it up. I said I knew nothing, and let's do this.
This bottle's so empty, and I keep drinking
Yeah,
from it.
okay.
I don't know why. Sorry.
You wanted a video. My first thought is college kids smoke weed. Now, here's my first thought. Get your kid out of Nebraska because he's in Nebraska.
Hey,
Get the fuck out
stop.
of there. Especially, is he a wide receiver? I'll stop being
It doesn't matter.
Is he wide receiver?
It doesn't matter. He's a Big Ten. It's a Big Ten school. He's
It
a
is.
player
All right,
on
all right.
scholarship. Stop.
Turning off the snark. Okay. The whole weed thing is going to get revamped at some point, but it's not there yet. And if he's worried about his kid getting blackballed by the NFL because he could end up in the program.
So let me stop you right there.
All right.
This is why he did it. His words. He said he pulled his son because his son started smoking weed, and NCAA rules say you can't smoke weed. And the NFL rules say you can't smoke weed. So Keyshawn figured it out that his son was smoking weed and said, listen, if you can't follow that simple rule, you can't be on your own. So you don't get to go there anymore. You're in with the wrong crowd. If people around you are encouraging you to do this, you shouldn't be around those people. So you don't get to go there anymore. You can't be on your own. Keyshawn's thoughts on weed are, if you're not in the NFL, if you're not playing for NCAA, or if you're not playing in the NCAA and you're not on scholarship, and the NCAA doesn't control what you put in your body like they do, well, we can argue about the NCAA later. But his point
I hear
is,
that for hours, but all right.
whether I think it should be legal or not, it's not allowed in the arenas in which you want to participate. And if you can't follow that simple rule of all the things, right, that are hard to follow, this one thing is very easy to control. And if you can't do that,
it doesn't happen by accident.
right? If you can't do that, then you can't be on your own. So he pulled him. And he laid out the path. He's just like, because then you get busted for weed, you get kicked out of school, you go to junior college. Then from junior college, you got to get from junior college back into another university. You have to qualify academically, and then you have to be worthwhile something on the field. Then you have to have a spectacular, year or two at a major university, and then you have to get drafted, which will probably be a low draft pick unless you're just so good. Which
and then you're in a program where
right, and then you're a program right, and then it's just like your path becomes all that much more difficult. So he pulled him. And for me, I think this is a message that not only a lot of parents need to hear, but black athletes need to hear it, right? Because you don't hear a lot of white athletes getting busted for drugs. And chances are the white athletes are smoking weed and, popping Molly and doing everything else, but they just don't get caught at the same rate. And it doesn't get publicized the same way. But at the end of the day, there's no difference between this and my arguments with people smoking weed in the hood. Listen, in the hood it's illegal, right? And I get it. Like, you should be able to do it. If it were legal, I wouldn't care.
The rules aren't fair.
But the rules aren't fair, but the rules are the rules. So if you don't want to get busted for it, don't do it. We're going to work on changing the rules. But in the meantime, don't get yourself caught in that trap. Same thing for NCAA and NFL, right? I agree that you should be able to smoke weed because it's better than taking Toradol, or it's better than taking morphine, or it's better than taking Oxycontin. Okay, I agree with that wholeheartedly, but the NFL doesn't. The NCAA doesn't, so you can't. Okay? And when you do it, you put yourself in jeopardy of getting busted, being kicked off the team, getting kicked out of the league, and dealing with that, right? So this move by Keyshawn Johnson should be a wake-up call to parents, to athletes, that if this is truly your dream to go on and play at a big school and go on to the next level and play in the NFL, then we can't be a part of it until the league and the country changes their mind on it. Once the NCAA changes their mind on it, or the NFL and the country overall, then smoke away. But that's not where we're at right now, right? And there's got to be a greater focus, right, than your desire and need and want to fit in, your desire and need and want to smoke weed. It's got to be more than that, right? You can fight, you can be an advocate for smoking weed all you want, but if you're under scholarship or if you're playing for the NFL, you can't smoke. Sorry, you can't, right? Don't give me it should be legal. I agree with you, but if you want to get paid or if you want your education paid for, you can't smoke it. In
the current status of things, there's no way to argue with what you just said. I think we agree. The current status is ridiculous, and we could talk about federal versus state versus Jeff Sessions versus Eric Holder.
Right. And we'll continue to fight that.
And we will. We'll argue that.
We'll argue it. We'll fight for it. Advocate it.
You cannot deny
you can't do it.
Bad decision. All right.
Right.
Anything else you want to throw up?
I don't. We're
nope?
donezo.
Done?
We're about to approach 10 minutes being over our limit.
There's
Jim,
no limits. There's
no limits. But I mean, there's certain. We gotta rein it in.
All right.
Keep them wanting to come back for more. Jim, it was a good time. Appreciate you having me over in our wonderful studios here in the west side of Cleveland in West Park, Kingham's Corner. We'll get with you next week, talk about some more stuff. I'll put some teasers out there on YouTube. You'll have your healthcare rants. I'll have my chats about whiskey and my other thoughts, and I don't know, whatever comes to mind. I'll put it out there on the YouTubes and the internets and the Googles.
We are whiskeycongress.com. We are Jim at whiskeycongress.com, Steve at whiskeycongress.com to speak to or email us directly. We're on iTunes. We're on Stitcher. We're out there. Thank you for listening. Google Play. We appreciate you. And, we'll talk more, man. I enjoyed it as always. Yep. We'll get back to it soon. And peace
be with you, Jim.
Likewise, sir.
You meant in your spirit.